Morning. This is the video for the All About Me collage. So if you missed it when I did it on Friday, or if you have more questions, this video will help you to better work your way through the project. So in order to start Photoshop, you're going to go to the Finder down here, and then you're going to open it in Applications. When you open Applications, open Adobe Photoshop. This will come up. Make sure you click on the Photoshop, not the configuration or the legal. It might take it a minute to open. It's a big program, so just give it a second. It does this little twirly thing. I don't know why it's not giving me the full screen. Oh, we'll give it a second here. Hopefully it doesn't freeze up on me. There we go. All right, so now you have your blank sort of canvas here. I'm going to show my history. I want you to create a new file. So File, New. I want you to label it All About Me, and then I would like you to put your last name. I'm going to put 2 for mine because I've already done it. You do not have to do that. All right, so we want to look at our file sort of makeup here. I do not want it in pixels. I want it in inches. So if I change one of them, both of them will change. And I would like to have 8.5 for the width and 11 for the height. Okay, make sure you're not making those opposite because then it will be horizontal instead of vertical. You want 300 pixels per inch. That is standard printing pixelation. If you are going to just publish it for the web, you could do lower, no lower than 100 really. The background contents are white. You could do transparent, which is the sort of checkery, but I'd like you to make it white. Color profile, RGB, make sure you're an RGB color. And we're gonna say, okay. And it should pop up with this beautiful little thing we got here, all right? So I wanna make sure I'm not clicking on it anywhere. If you do happen to, for some reason, click on it and make some sort of, hates me right now, make some sort of marquee or something like that, or if you accidentally end up filling something, this over here with the 3 boxes is your history panel. Okay, so you can see that I created the document. I opened it as a new document, and then I made this rectangular marquee. I didn't mean to do that. The reason why this is important is because you can go back and I can put, just where I open it new, even I can go to the original, okay? If you don't want to see it, you can pull it back. I like to keep mine up so I can kind of see what I'm doing, and if I need to go back, it's so easy. Don't click on these boxes, click on the actual. So if I want to go back here, or if I want my rectangular marquee back, I can go there, but I'm going to go here, okay? I want you to make sure you're in the Move tool just so that if you do click on anything, it's not going to hurt anything. We're going to create a background color, okay? So here, mine are black and blue already. I want you to click on the first box, okay? So I'm right here, if you're having trouble seeing on your screen. I am not over here. I don't want you over here right now. I want you to just click on this, all right? I'm going to pick this pretty pink color here. I'm going to press OK. All right, so make sure, again, that I'm clicking on the color that I want. You can click around so you find something you like. I'm going to click on that, press OK. All right. Now I want my background color to be a different color. So how you toggle these, I'm over here again, is this little cornery, arrowy thing. And see how that switches these back and forth. And it does it up here as well. All right. Back and forth, back and forth. So I want to switch this color now. I'm going to make mine, I like to make it like this color. This might be kind of cool. All right, I'm going to say okay. All right. So now I have these 2 colors. It doesn't matter which is your top and which is your bottom color, really. you're gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12th down. And it might say gradient tool or it might have the paint bucket tool. Right now, I would like you to be in paint bucket tool. All right, so I'm gonna click on that. Everybody should be in that. Again, not in the gradient, but in the paint bucket tool. And then you are going to click. Oh, boom, I got my background color there, all right? So you're gonna be working in whatever color your front color is in. So if I wanted that to be this color, I would do that instead. It doesn't matter because you're gonna gradiate it. All right, I'm gonna go back to where my paint bucket is. I'm gonna hold it down with my mouse, don't let go, and then go over and go to gradient tool. Okay, my gradient is determined by the line that I make. My gradient's gonna go from there to there. So if I made this line, that means I'm telling my colors to gradiate from here to here, which they do. If you want a shorter gradation, you can make it shorter, so you get more of your background color. If you want it to go a different direction, so I'm getting more of this, a little bit of a harsher line, less of a value scale in the middle, you can do that. If you want it to go the other way, you can make it go the other way. I don't really care how you do it. You could play with it. You could go like this, and then it'll do it this way. All right, however you want to do it. I kind of like that, so I'm going to keep it like that, okay? However you want to do it. So when you're happy with it, leave it alone, all right? This is going to be our background. I want you to unlock your background too. So again, I just went over here and clicked the little locky button. Then I want you to go to File up here. Make sure you're in Photoshop. If you're clicked on your background, File isn't going to work, okay? So you want to make sure that you're in Photoshop. I'm going to go to File, Open, and then it's going to let me choose what I open. And I want to open one of the white background pictures that I chose for my project. So you guys should have 10 by now. If you don't, please get them. All right. And I open that. Now, I'd like you to notice that this is in a different, so if you're like, oh, wait, where did my background go? This is in a different tab, all right? So you can click back and forth between the two, okay? So now we're going to select, and I'm going to show you the easiest way to select. This will not work for most things, okay? The reason why this works for this is because the background is white. That's why I asked you to pick backgrounds that are white, so the selection process for this first project will be easy for you. The magic wand tool, so I'm going 4 down, I'm holding on, it's either in quick selection tool or magic wand tool. These are all your selection tools. So you have your lasso tool, you have your polygonal lasso tool, and your magnetic lasso tool. I don't want you to use those. We will be using those, but not for this project. For this project, I want you to make it a little bit more simple. So I'm in the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool differentiates contrast and color variation. So if I were to try to select with my magic wand tool here, I would have a problem because it's selecting all the different contrasts within the camera, all right? So how am I going to fix that? I'm gonna go back up in my history here, and I'm going to go to where I first picked. Nope, I don't want to do that. At least it might, well, keep going up until I'm going to go to deselect. Okay, so that's the last, what I had before. Now, where is the most of my contrast? It's between my background and my foreground. So it's between my white background and my Nikon camera I have here. So the magic wand tool actually is going to work best for you in most situations if you click on the background. Notice how it easily selects my camera. But I have a problem because my background right now is what is selected, okay? I do not want my background. I want the camera. So if I were to try and move this over here, I would have a cutout of a camera and not an actual camera. So you're going to go to Select up here and Inverse. Inverse means the opposite. It will select the opposite of what you have selected. So it's selecting the negative space of your first one. And now you have selected the camera. Now, I do, however, have a little bit of an issue with my camera because I have something that I would like to deselect. All right, I want to be able to see through this little hole here, and I want to see the background of this. I do not want to see white through there. that will not make it look realistic. Not that ours is very realistic, but we want it to belong in that space. So I'm going to press Command, and I'm going to press plus. And that's going to let me zoom in a little bit, all right? And I can come over to here. And I am going to, instead of using my magic wand tool, I'm going to use my quick selection tool. Quick selection tool lets you select a bunch of things at once. Now my brush size is really small here, so I'm going to make it bigger. So your brushes are up here. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. So I'm going to make my brush bigger. That's too big. I'll make it big so you can see it. Okay. So I'm not adding to my selection. This is already selected. I want to subtract it. So in order to subtract, you want to press the Option key, and that is going to make you go into subtraction mode. So you are subtracting from your selection. I want to take this out. You can also do that up here, but it's easier to use the keys. So I'm going to make my brush size smaller again so that it fits in that little hole there. All right, maybe a little smaller than that. And I'm going to use subtraction mode here, and I just clicked on it once, and that's pretty good. I mean, you could go and you can add maybe just a tiny bit of it more back in and make it a little bit more finite. You could even really, really, really zoom in and get in there. I am concerned about your selection, but that looks like a pretty good selection to me. We're not going to go into finite detail here. So I am done selecting this. I'm going to zoom out, so I'm going to say Command minus. All right, it's going to fit that to the screen. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Cut for now. You can do this other ways, but right now I'm going to go Edit, Cut. I'm going to go back. Wait a minute. I'm missing something right here. That didn't do that the last time I did this. I need to, with my quick selection, add. So it's good to go to Cut because you can kind of see what you don't have. All right. So what I did just there was I used the quick selection tool and I added this stuff back in. So when I cut it out, I noticed that these little guys, the highlights here, it read that as the white background, and I don't want that. So now I'm going to go to Edit, Cut again. All right, and then I'm going to go to Paste. Wow. I want to make sure that I'm in my Move tool right on the top here, and I can move it all around. Now, I can't do very much with this. All I can do right now is move. I want you to notice over here that that created a new layer, okay? So you can unsee that layer if you want to work more on your background, or you can put it back, but it's still there, all right? If I wanted to take my background out, I could if I wanted to focus more on that. But right now I'm going to have them both working. Now I want to be able to transform this. You can do the transform controls up here, or you can go to Command T, and that does it real quickly. So either way is fine with me. This helps you up here to turn it. Now, before you do anything to it, I want you to notice this little locky guy here. That is going to lock your aspect ratio, which means that if I didn't do that, if I made it shorter, it's going to make my camera super squishy. If I made it longer, it's going to make it taller. I don't want my camera to look really off. So if I lock the aspect ratio, if I make the width bigger, the height will go along with it to maintain its original state. So you can turn it. You can make it smaller, you can put it in the corner, you can make it go off the page a little too. I like a little bit of cropping like that. It will help you fit more stuff in there, but it also makes it look more natural, I think, to have stuff going off of the page, okay? So then when you're done, you can either press the check mark up here, or you can press enter, or return. It's return on these. So either one is fine with you. If you like to press the check mark up here, you can. Sometimes people like to do that just to make sure that they're definitely done doing what they need to do. Okay, so I'm gonna leave my camera there like that. You can keep your camera document open here. All it is an empty space. I am going to close it. I don't wanna save it. And then I'm going to go to File, Open. I am going to pick something else. So I'm gonna pick my little sloth man here. I like my little slothy sloth. All right, I'm gonna add him to my picture. So the quick selection tool you could use. So what happens if I try and use my magic wand tool? It selects contrast. It's not going to select because the background, so this is when you run into funny things a little bit, because the background is not totally white, then I'm gonna run into a problem with my sloth. So what I would like you to do is I'd like you, if you have that issue, to use the quick selection tool, okay? So I'm gonna go actually back and I am going to start selecting my sloth. Now you can use a smaller brush if you want for this purposes. So it's kind of cool. So I'm holding this down right now. I like to hold it down for some reason. I feel it's more like a paintbrush or something to me, but you don't have to hold it down. I can stop there, but then I can click around and add. So if that seems more natural to you, by all means do that, okay? So I'm coming up here, I'm adding. All right, so my sloth is selected, I think, pretty well right at this point. But again, I have this little area here that I want to deselect. So I deselect something by pressing the Option key and giving myself the minus here, okay? You can also do that up here. I'm gonna make my brush size a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna select, oh, I selected way too much, okay? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, so Command plus is my zoomy zoom there. And I am going to add some of this back into my selection. All right, see how it's the plus? I'm adding this back in. This is going to take some practice. It is okay if you don't get this right on the first time. It is okay if you hate what you've done and you go back in your history and start the whole thing over again, okay? Whatever you want. Oh, wait, something's happening here. I didn't select that. So just really go through and make sure that you, again, see here that for some reason I must have skipped this little part. So I want to make sure that I have that selected. All right. So I'm going to zoom back out and kind of look at it and make sure that I have all of my stuff selected. So I'm using, Command. All right. I want this there. I want a little bit of that. Just kind of looking, making sure I got everything. All right. Now I'm going to go to Edit. Cut. And then I'd like to go to my original, and then I'd like to paste, okay? Now he's really, really small right now, and I can move him around, but he's super small. I can't really see him, so I want to say Control-T to transform him. Again, you can do that up here as well. I want to lock my aspect ratio. And then I'm going to make him bigger. Now, when I make him bigger, he looks super, super pixelated. I don't want you to worry about that while it's in transform mode. For some reason, while you're transforming, it ends up looking like really, really pixelated. But when you either check mark it or you press return, it most of the time goes back to its original state if you have a big enough file, okay? So I don't want my sloth hanging out in the middle here. It's not going off the page. It looks like he's going to the tree to nowhere. So if you have something that's cut off like that, please put it somewhere in your page where it looks like it's a natural cutoff. So I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna say, yes, I like this by pressing return. And notice how my sloth is back in focus. Now, if I tried to move my camera, uh-oh, I'm still in my sloth. I don't like the way my camera is behind my sloth like that. I want you to notice here how you have another layer, okay? If I don't want my camera behind my sloth, I can take this layer, I'm clicking and holding and pulling it up to the top, okay? So now my layer 0 is my background, my layer 1 is my camera, and my layer 2 is my sloth. And if you want to put the camera on top, and now I'm working in my camera layer, so if I want to put the camera on top of my sloth like that, I can, okay? So you have to make sure that first and foremost, if you're trying to move something, you are clicked into that layer. So if I want to move my sloth, I'm clicked into that layer. You are also making sure that you're in your move tool up here when you're moving stuff around. Don't be in any of these other tools or it's not going to do what you want it to do. So stop and think before you do. Now, if you do something wrong where you are accidentally, in a paintbrush tool there and you tried to move something, it's okay. Just go back up in your history. So if you do make mistakes, it's not the end of the world. You don't have to start all over. Your history panel is one of your best friends. Okay? So if I want to move my camera, oh wait, look, I'm still in my paintbrush tool. Make sure you are in the move tool. And you can move this around. If I want it to be behind my sloth, I'm going to move my sloth up to the top. Whatever's on top is the one that's going to be front, okay? These ones are going to be layered behind it, okay? So I'm going to keep going, and I am going to open File, Open. I am going to pick, I'm going to pick my tent. My tent's pretty easy too. Okay. Again, the magic wand tool will probably work best for this only because it is a pretty stark difference between the background. The background's very white in this. Okay. But I want you to think about what I am selecting here and what I need to do still. If I move this right now, or if I cut and paste it right now, it is going to move with the background. I don't want to put the background in my picture. So again, I would like you to go to select inverse, and then you will have your inversion, which will be your selection, and your selection is now your tent, okay? I like that selection pretty well. So I'm going to go to edit, cut, and then I'm going to edit, paste. There are other ways to move things, but this is easiest for right now. Now, if I touch this right now, I'm going to select it again. I don't want to do that. So again, make sure you're in the move tool. My tent is teeny tiny. I'd like to make it way bigger. Maybe my sloth is in my tent. So I'm going to go to either Show Transform Tools up here or Command T. Again, I want you to make sure every time, unless you would like to skew your image, like I don't really want to do like that, okay? I would like to make sure that I have locked my aspect ratio. I'm going to make it way bigger. Again, it looks very pixelated. Wait until you have pressed return. All right, I don't want this in front of everything. It really, really blocks everything. So that means I want it way down here, okay? Now I can still move it because I'm still in that layer, so maybe I'll make it come up like this. Now I want to move my camera, so I'm going to go into that layer, move my camera. If I want to move my sloth down a little bit lower, I'm going to move it like that with my sloth layer selected now. If you want to turn all these off, you can, or if you want to be able to transform, like if I wanted to be able to transform my tent, but I don't want to have to do it behind all that stuff, I can turn that off. Okay? So if you wanted to do a little bit more, you're going to have 7 images. So I know I made you pick 10. That is because maybe some of your images are too small. Maybe some of them are going to be really, really hard to select for you, and it's something that you don't want to mess with. So what I would like you to do is to pick the 7 that you really, really like first, and then you can have a couple, you have 3 fallback ones. So if you don't like the picture of the football helmet or it doesn't work, then you have another one that you can use. So you don't have to go back and re-find all of these on the internet again, okay? So once you have all of them done, you can save it. You can mess with the background a little bit. If you like this, that's fine. Say you wanted to paint on it. So here's the paintbrush. All right, I'm in the brush tool. All right, oh, why am I, oh. And then I'm gonna look at the different brushes that I have. These are kind of cool brushes that I have here. You can look and see what brushes you like. The size of the brush. Make sure I wasn't in my background, that's why I was saying it was locked. All right, the size of the brush you can do, and you can make bigger if you want. So I'm going to make my brush size a little bit bigger. There's that. So the opacity. Opacity means how transparent or non-transparent. So I'm going to show you when I do this. I'm going to pick a color over here. So I want black so I can show you better. This is 100% opacity, okay? That's pretty dark. If I bring it down to 50% opacity, it's a little less. You know, I can make these cool, like little sort of scratchy marks in the background. You can be a little bit painterly with it. And if you bring it down to like 9%, you know, you're really kind of just creating a little bit of like a shadowy effect on your background here, okay? So you can do some cool, you know, some lines. So if you click once and you press shift, it will make a line for you. So again, if you want to make some straight lines, I'm clicking once, I'm pressing shift, and then I'm clicking down here, and see how it made a line. I can do that again with the opacity turned up a little bit. All right, so I clicked here, and then I pressed shift, and I clicked down here, and it made a straight line. So what you could do, I kind of like this. I'm gonna go back up to where I started using the brush tool. Look how many brush tools I used. All right. Oops. So you're going to, what I like to do is I like to I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. I like to do a line by pressing shift, and I kind of like to, so I'm gonna click here again and press shift and then go down here. I kind of like to frame mine in, and it doesn't have to be like perfect. It could be kind of cool to do something like this. And you kind of have just like a little frame, and you can pick like a different brush and maybe a different color inside of it to do a different, maybe like a yellow would be cool. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. And maybe I'll make, ooh, that's so big. And maybe I'll make this less of an opacity here. So I'm gonna make it down a little bit. And I'm gonna kind of do it like on top of this one. I'm just playing around, like you don't have to do this. So I'm pressing it, and then I'm pressing shift again, and it kind of changes color, which is kind of cool. So however you want to do it, you can play with your background. I really want you guys to play with this and kind of figure it out as you go, okay? And then I could turn all of my layers back on, and then I have this like funky background here. Don't click on it again. Wait until you have this. I'm moving my background. I did not mean to do that. Make sure you are in. So if I want to move this guy over, all right. I don't care how you do it. Your background, it has to be thoughtful. Don't just like do a bunch of randomness, but make sure that your background is something that you think about and that you want to do. And if you want to just leave it as that, if you want to just leave it as the background, that's fine. Okay, whatever you want to do. When you go to save it, go to File, Save As. Just make sure it's a Photoshop file for right now. If you're still working on it, make sure it's a Photoshop file. Don't condense any of these layers, okay? When you're in a working project, make sure it is a Photoshop file. We're not going to save it as a Photoshop file at the end because we're going to print it, so I'd like it to be a JPEG, so it's a little bit smaller. But right now, I want you to save it as a Photoshop file. You're going to save it. You can save it in a folder. You can save it to your documents. You can save it to your desktop and then put it in your Google Drive if it's something that you want to do. If you don't feel comfortable leaving it on your desktop, that's fine. So I'm going to save that. If it says this, say don't show it again. Okay. All right. So now it is saved. All of my layers are saved. So when I go to open it again, I can open it in the same spot that I was. When you go to quit Photoshop, go up here. I did save it. Gosh. Yeah, save. All right. So save this before you close, and then when you go to close your Photoshop, make sure you log out your computer before you leave, and then when you come in tomorrow, go ahead and open it back up again, and then you can have your first file to work with from the start, okay? If you have any questions, you can stop me and I will answer the questions for you. And then if you need anything, go ahead and you can send me an email or ask me a question during class. Thank you.